The White House is saying that the Islamic Republic is going to get is selling its oil. So I've gotten, by the removal of the blockade, they got sanction waivers, and they get vouchers. They're not going to get money. They get to buy American soy, corn, wheat with it with these vouchers. They're not going to be able to go. They're not going to get any cash to be able to go sell weapons, and in return, the main thing that the United States has gotten in return is IAEA inspectors, both from the UN and the US. Which is, if the US is correct, that would be a really big win. In return, to go inside Iran, because that would be humiliating if the murderer of Qasem Soleimani and Khamenei uh, gets to put Americans inside Iran. Like, that would be very devastating for the Islamic Republic if that happens. That's what the White House is saying. So that I don't know what the number is. Some people are saying this oil sale that the Islamic Republic has already has already gotten them 4 billion, 5 billion, 6 billion. I'm getting different numbers. Recently, I'm getting the 6 billion number. That's a lot of money in a very short amount of time. But the thing, everybody is saying that they didn't get a single dollar. They're just getting something like food stamps that they could only buy American foods with. Before I tell you what the Islamic Republic is saying in response, let me just tell you that's already there's a loophole around this. An obvious loophole, honestly. The Islamic Republic could go just sell the food for money, and buy drones and missiles with it. And better and even easier, they could just give the food to Hezbollah and allow to for so if you want to make sure that you're not even transferring any money to Hezbollah, you could just fill trucks of food and send it to Hezbollah and get Hezbollah to sell the food in Lebanon and use the money to buy, I don't know, FPV drones against Israel. That's an easy way around all of this. I mean, we already saw this. Hamas, the food aid that made it to Gaza was, instead of getting it to the people in Gaza for free, which was supposed to be like that, Hamas took it and sold it, tripled the price, and used the money to to make rockets against the Israelis. So this is obviously what's going to happen here as well. I mean, there's that. But other than that, then the Islamic Republic responded by saying, like, nah, first of all, we did not agree to any IAEA inspectors inside Iran. That's a lie. Which is, I mean, that sounds insane for them to say that, because, like, what would they, like, obviously, if they allowed you to sell oil at market prices in without sanctions, without a discount that they usually have to China, because there's no sanctions in US dollars, in at market prices, that's a big win for the Islamic Republic. Even if it's short term, it's a big win for them. Obviously the Islamic Republic must have given something big for them to get that. So I don't, like, it's hard. Like, I know it's you guys, like, obviously the Islamic Republic lies. I mean, yeah, but it's actually more complicated. The Islamic Republic has its own internal supporters to worry about. They will be going for their throats if they realize that they have accepted inspectors inside Iran. So maybe they're just trying to buy time with their own internal supporters within the Islamic Republic. Maybe that's what's happening. But so and also the Islamic Republic is also saying that it's a lie that we only can buy American food. We could buy whatever food we want with these vouchers. That's the deal. They're saying they're misrepresenting it, and they actually have the audacity to come out and say we might buy American food if it's good quality. That's what they're saying. So they're saying that. So there's that. But I just want to say what we see is happening and get your impression of what you think is actually happening based on everything we saw so far. So yeah, I'm gonna let you guys speak because I've already been speaking for 2 hours. Actually, 3 hours straight. So let's continue.
Ah, you were doing the Persian show.
The Persian
I
show and
saw
the
that.
Nepal show. Yeah, yeah, you saw that. Okay, that's
I saw. I didn't understand, but it seemed important. It seemed
it
like
was
a
a
very
yeah. I'm glad
all
you
right,
saw it,
Nick.
Sketch. Because no, wait. I'm so glad you saw it because I was being interviewed by Nejat Bahrami, which is one of the highest advisors and one of the within the team within Princess of Pahlavi's team, part of the Iran Prosperity Project. The person he wrote a huge section of the booklet under the direction of Princess of Pahlavi, and he meets with him often and talks to him often. And I wasn't interviewing him; he was interviewing me. He was asking questions of me, which was crazy, like a huge honor for me. So that's what that was. So yeah, thank you for noticing that.
So you're already on board with the team, but being more directly on board is like 100%. Something you would like, and I would like to see you there too. Next to respond on this, we have Wyatt.
Hey there. People with empty bellies rebel and people with full bellies don't. Not to be cruel, but I would like all this food to disappear. I would like the oil fields to burn. I'd like the electricity to go off, and then people will be free. Because I think this deal is just going to make the revolution less likely to happen. All right, that's it.
So just a quick response to that. First of all, if the Iranian people hear that, they're gonna um, be very upset that anybody said that. And also, the Iranian people are not hungry. This is not about hunger. This is about food prices being so high, and we're not getting starvation yet, and we don't want to go there at all. And if the Iranians' understanding is that the American policy is to starve them so that they rebel, it will hurt the unity between the Iranians and the Americans. And what we're dealing right now is malnutrition in children because of higher food prices. We're not saying starvation, but we are saying malnutrition in children. And I don't think malnutrition in children is going to get us upraised. Like, I mean, it might because it will make parents angry. But I mean, the point of doing an uprising in Iran and changing the regime is to get a pro like a government that is wants to be friendly to the whole rest of the world, right? Like one of the points is that, right? So we don't want to sacrifice the relation the view of the Iranian people of the rest of the world, which is positive. If we sacrifice that, then that's a loss, right? So just keep that in mind as well, that the Iranian people are very America friendly and they love America. So basically, them thinking that they're being starved so that they do an uprising will challenge that relationship that they have with America, and they see as America as their ally and their friend, and it's not a good idea to. I think that's an asset for America, and it's good for America to have that. So it would be good not to mess with that.
All right. Next on our list, we have Jonathan.
Jonathan?
Jonathan, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear.
Oh, okay. What the way I understand it is that all the sanctions relief that they've given Iran so far is coming out of an American escrow account. So it can't go directly to the IRGC. They're putting rules in place on how they're allowed to spend that money.
Yeah, so I already addressed that. There's a really way to get around that. When you get they can spend it only on food, but you can't sell the food and get money. Once you get the food, you can sell the food and get money.
This is also known as the Hamas Method. They've done this successfully in Gaza. Next to respond on this is Raham.
Hello. You me okay?
Yes,
Darud.
Hi. Yeah, so I just had a question about this. So regarding that escrow account, did Vance say that the Qataris can also determine how the money's spent? Did I hear that right?
yeah. So the Qataris are in charge of making sure all of this is being spent on the, on food and stuff, which is like it's weird because I don't trust them.
Yeah, that's not
so-
promising at all.
Yeah, that's not promising at all. Yeah. Also, Raham, if you could, like, your audio quality is not very good, so if you could improve because you always bring up good points and ask good questions. So if you could figure out your audio issue, that would be great. But yeah, but that's a good point.
School
Give me
has a
one second.
tendency to switch the microphone, so you have to be very careful that on that little arrow next to the microphone, it's picking up the correct one. Next to
Is it
respond
better
on
now?
this, we have that's a little better.
Okay. I actually had a point to make if I could on the same thing. I don't see this helping the Iranian people at all. Unfortunately, what they're going to do, I think, is they're probably going to bribe more of their own supporters to come out in the streets, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, come," because they used to give them sandis, and which is like fruit juice before it's a running joke. But now they're going to offer them actual food and stuff because food is so expensive. So they're going to come out in droves, like most likely to try and pretend like they're for the regime, even if they're not. So I don't think it's a great idea.
In general, food is kind of can be used like a currency. Like, oh, we're only going to give them food, not money. Well, I mean, food can be used like currency. You could trade with food. Yeah. Okay. Who's next?
Next to reply on this, we have Jeffrey. Jeffrey, go ahead.
So a couple of points on this. Armin's not wrong in the sense that sanctions or like denying human security concerns to a occupied country in the hopes that it spurs uprisings have not been shown to be very effective in doing so. In fact, when I was right after the Green Revolution and the Mullah regime had slaughtered kids during the Green Revolution in 2009, and I know you have issues with this guy. I was asked to speak on a panel with Amir Fakhrivar at the Iranian Enterprise Institute and Freedom House. And so I went down the line of different positive and negative, inducements, right? Like a policy, the range of policies from positive inducement, bribery, all the way down to negative inducement, airstrikes. Airstrikes are far more positively discriminative in that you can focus them on the assholes that you want to eliminate or punish. Whereas sanctions are perversely discriminative in the sense that they harm, like with regards to food and basic human security concerns, right? It's usually perversely discriminative in the sense that it just harms the most vulnerable of a society. We've tried some of these things with smart sanctions and all that. Really didn't work very well. So I think that the approach, I'll get to the approach that they're, trying to do in a minute. Armin's also not, he's also correct in the sense we did something similar like during the Iran-Iraq war. So the United States did not provide Saddam Hussein material support for WMDs. Saddam Hussein's weapons were all Eastern Soviet Bloc sourced stuff, including his WMD capability, other than a couple of superficial attempts at procuring dual-purpose precursor elements regarding anthrax through fraudulent front companies, which when discovered was immediately shut down and denied. How did Saddam get some of that money? We provided Saddam satellite intelligence, some small arms, and food aid, and Saddam sold the food aid, at least to the best of my understanding, to raise money that then he used to purchase that stuff. So, I mean, Armin is concerned, rightly so, with regards to the Mullah regime remnants pulling something similar now, right? The whole point is to provide, is to deny the regime the ability to reconstitute itself vis-a-vis oil, lifting oil sanctions, and not punish Iranian people. So as it's envisioned right now under Vance and the rest of them, where does it kind of shake out? So as of today, there's talks of, although they haven't, to the best of my knowledge, agreed on this, it could unlock about, I think it's $10 billion potential. And there's some involvement with Jared Kushner, Vance, and Qatari. It like floated the idea of unfreezing Iranian assets between 12 and 24 billion, which would come with some strict conditions. You'd have U.S. and Qatari oversight and approval. The funds are restricted to purchasing U.S. agricultural products like soybeans, corn, wheat, explicitly to feed Iranian people as well as benefit American farmers. Here's some of the benefits and challenges. So the benefits, it's humanitarian for civilians. It helps address food insecurity or shortages inside Iran, exacerbated by the Mullah regime's mishandling of their economy and or just stealing money outright to pursue all kinds of crazy shit, from ballistic missiles to weapons to whatever. You know, one numerate them all. It's an economic win for the U.S. because it boosts American farmers and ag exports with major sales, particularly in staples like corn, wheat, and soy. It's leveraging the talks. It's not a blank check, albeit we have a third party like Qatar, which is a mixed bag. It limits the bad use of funds, or at least directly, although not indirectly, as Armin rightly pointed out. You know, it doesn't eliminate it. It counters propaganda and builds soft power, right? And it has some historical, underpinnings, although they were very checkered at best. Here's the challenges. The regime remnants, if it rejects conditions as sovereignty violations or they find it humiliating, they want cash and unrestricted funds. That's why they are pushing back against it. Diversion and enforcement gaps. It's very hard to guarantee the funds, goods reach civilians versus military elites or remnants or hardliners. This actually happened with regards to the 1993 agreed framework between that bimbo the clown looking syphilitic fuck Bill Clinton and the North Korean regime. I actually know the main players on both sides of that endeavor, both Madam Not Too Bright Dean Galuchtard, who was the deans at Georgetown when I attended classes there, and Major Dunn, who was the main military representative of that effort, who absolutely hated the Clintonistas. So what happened? And the 1993 agreed framework and 1994 Sunshine Plan was, floated by Bill Clinton to the North Korean regime. If they allegedly suspended their, and I say allegedly because they violated their agreement anyway, this serves as a cautionary tale with regards to regime remnants. If the North Korean regime suspended its ballistic missile and nuclear weapons development, that we would provide 2,200 calories per person per day, which we did. The North Korean regime absolutely violated it. They never even adhered to it. And what they did is Kim Il Ping Pong Head's dad took all the bags of rice that we provided, had his soldiers scrub the American flags off of them, store them for his soldiers, and triaged a third of his people to starve to death, particularly in northern North Korea, to the point where they were digging dead people out of the ground to fucking eat them. So there's that issue. Banking and practical hurdles. So even with licensings, there's like many banks like de-risk and they don't want to deal with the regime remnants. So there's all that kind of crap. I mean, it's kind of clunky as shit. Even when you have OFAC guidance, you're going to see domestic political backlash. Hawks like yours truly will criticize relief as rewarding for bad behavior, which in many cases it can be, albeit it's trying to sit there and, incentivize a pause while we restock stuff, which every asshole knows what everybody knows that none of this is good faith, right? You have like three scorpions, like trying to find the chink in each other's armor, so there's that issue. It's going to have limited real impact versus the risk of exploitation. I kind of outlined all that. There's uncertainty and escalation. So even temporary waivers create renewal fights if it fails, all this other stuff. I mean, there's like a lot of downsides to this. Overall, the idea is to find ways to provide relief to the Iranian people in a manner that minimizes the overall possibility of the regime remnants to divert those funds to reconstitute like military WMD capability and or terrorism. I would contend there's a very, this also underwrites why I pushed very hard and still am. Training will start tomorrow, by the way. With regards to having competitive open source intelligence assessment operations sovereign tide, recognizing His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government as the official government in exile, and liberating very large oil tankers that the Mullah regime uses to try to obtain any kind of monetary resources to reconstitute its crazy shit. Sorry, it was a bit long. That was a lot to go in there. I just wanted to provide some historical background on how to think of it.
That was very, very useful, Jeff. Just like if you, I know it's challenging, but if you could pack it to shorter segments because there's so many people waiting to respond, that would be. I know it's really hard, but yeah, because it's also very valuable. It's just we want to make sure that more people get to speak to. All right, so who's next?
All right. Next to respond on this is Jim.
Hey, Armin. Can you hear me okay? This is my first time here.
Okay, yes, we can hear you. Go
Great.
ahead. And welcome to our
All
group.
right. Well, thank you. I just want to tell you I appreciate you and and Goldie, and I've been following you since the beginning of all of this, and it's been very helpful. My response is more of, I thought I had a topic, but I think this topic is so big. But one thing I wanted to highlight is clause number 13 in the MOU agreement. It has me very concerned. I don't know if I'm sure you've looked at it pretty close, but in that clause, the thing that concerns me is, when this was all beginning, Vice President Vance was talking about how they would be rewarded for good activity, the good activity. But clause 13 doesn't read that way. Clause 13 says, after signing this MOU and subject to the beginning of the implementation of paragraphs 1, 4, 5, 10, and 11. And I won't go through and read all the clauses, but number 11, the United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran upon implementation of this MOU. It almost seems like we're giving away too much and not getting a whole lot for it. And that sort of flows into what you're talking about. It makes me concerned about this idea. Okay, yeah, we're going to give them money, but it's going to be food. Is any of that written down anywhere? I don't know. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'm a staunch Republican supporter of Israel. And, but this really has me concerned. I just don't like the area this is going. And I don't know if, I just feel like somebody misled somebody. And maybe I shouldn't feel that way, but I need a little more than just words now. I need to see stuff written down, so to speak. But anyway, take your time sometime and look over clause 13 and see what I'm talking about. It's very concerning to me.
Yeah, so a lot of this, a lot of people said exactly what you're saying. There's this, and there's a lot of about the MOU that suggested that the Islamic Republic is going to get rewarded before they actually demonstrate anything serious. But then the White House was reassuring us that don't worry, because whatever is in the MOU, we're not going to let that happen, right? So they said that the MOU is there, but the MOU is just there, like is like if we don't like what we're saying, we're going to bomb them or something like that, even if regardless of what you have in the MOU. That's what they were saying, right? But then, so the way that we understood it is that the MOU is just like a marketing doc. It's not a legal document. It's a marketing document for the Islamic Republic to show to the regime supporters so that they go along with Ghalibaf, slowly submitting to the United States, right? That was the understanding. And, whatever you read in the MOU, there's no legal binding. United States is the enforcer, so they could decide at any moment if they're happy about this or not. So the way to judge this is that instead of looking at the text, because it's not legally binding anyway, the only thing that we could look at is what actually happens rather than what is in the MOU. And the problem with that is that we will find out when it's too late. Because there's no legally binding document here, they could tell us that, yeah, don't worry, the Islamic Republic has to show good behavior before anything is released. But they say it's basically trust us, and then that's exactly what's going to happen. And then we go, if that is not what's happening, then it's too late anyways. So at the beginning of this right now, it's not looking great, because the Islamic Republic has already received a lot of oil revenue, and they're saying, don't worry, that's not going to be released to them in cash. But again, we already discussed what's the issue with that. So now, like, we're now going to go to these other things, like there's a blockade removal and the access to oil money and the sanction removal that is already looking really bad. So now we're going to have to see what's going to happen with the $24 billion frozen funds, and the way that the $300 billion, the other $300 billion was sold to us, made it look like, okay, maybe it's not that much of a bad idea, because it's not going to go for the IRGC, it's going to be against the IRGC. But that's how they're selling it to us. Like, if that's why every time I said, if that's what's actually happening, then it's good. but then we might get there and there might be actually no, this is, this is $24 billion directly to IRGC with no conditions. By the time it happens, it's already too late. Like we can't, like, I mean, the American voters can't do anything about it, and many of them are not even paying that much of attention to this right now, right? And when it's done, it's already done. So if you're looking for a document that is written down and signed and is binding, it's not. Any legal document is as good as the enforcing power behind it. A document that is signed, like, this is international. This is not like, because whose authority, a law is a law because there's an authority that enforces the law. Within a nation state, the law is the state. But outside of a state, this is why I think, like, international law is not even international law, it's our international suggestions. Because who is the authority above the nation, above the state in a nation that is supposed to be international, other than the power of, US military? So it's basically whatever the US says it is, that will be what it is, because they're the enforcement power behind it. And the document itself is meaningless, in my opinion. And we just have to see what the U.S. will be happy with, and what President Trump basically is going to be okay with, and what he's not going to be okay with. And it seems like what we want, and what you want here, is not that much of a. It's not going to be that much of a. The midterms are the key here, and what influences the midterm, apparently. What do you think about all of that, Jim?
Well, it's not comfortable, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And in the bottom line, I really don't. And this is tough to say, but the more Vice President Vance talks, the less I trust him. And sometimes I feel like Trump's just saying whatever his advisors say. So I don't know. I've been very discomforted the last few days, but I appreciate what you said, and I understand a little better about, it means whatever the United States says it means, and we just have to see how it goes. But I don't know. I was reading through everything, and that just really, I said, man, no wonder they're giving them all this stuff up front,
Yeah.
just for signing this document.
And Jim, they said on state TV inside Iran, they came out and said, guys, don't worry about any of this. We'll get whatever we can from the Americans, and then we'll violate them all later anyways. That they actually publicly said that on state TV inside Iran.
Okay. Well, thanks for this. I really appreciate this group.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, who's next?
I'd like to comment on this for a second, if I may. We could just lie to them too. We did tell them before Operation Midnight Hammer, oh, don't worry, you have 2 weeks, and then we hit them the next day. I mean, this could just be us like extending that ceasefire reload deal so we can reload. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be about the midterms. Jim, you know about swing voters. I lovingly call them the most dangerous animal in America, because they will push the Democrat button or the Republican button and just not care. So these are very worrying people. I lived for a long time in America before I came back to Puerto Rico. I served with a lot of people from the South. I kind of love your accent because it just reminds me of my time in the military. And I do understand that it is very worrying, but war is a funny game, and the fog of war twists words to mean things they might not. So that should all be taken into account. Midterms are very worrying. During midterms, you want low gas prices, you want low food prices. This is a direct relief to farming, because if that, it's like what food stamps used to be is farming has a problem with sales. Poor people have a problem with getting money. Let's subsidize so this food, this overage that the farmers have, we take that, give it to people that are hungry. So this is an extension of that. The problem is making it sure it gets to hungry bellies and is not being resold by the IRGC. That's like the big problem. But this is all part of the political mechanics of America. In my view, might be, if it's up to me, we'd be bombing again like a month ago. If it's up to me. But I'm trying to see the bigger picture. All right. And with that, next response we have is Yuval.
Yes. So
I just like to point out two facts. One, at a greater scale, we have the pattern in the world of crisis, like with Hamas or with Iran, that we all think logically, oh, that's it, now it's going to be resolved, and somehow, for some reasons, we cannot figure out, they're not being resolved and they're still there, even though logically there's no reason for them not to be resolved. That's one fact we should bear in mind. So it could be that there is someone out there in the world that likes us always to be in a state of crisis. And then regarding this particular deal, I heard it. I didn't pay attention to each detail until I heard the word soy. Who's the biggest soy farmer in the U.S. or one of the biggest ones? I don't know if you know. It's a guy called Bill Gates. And so what's going on there? I'm not sure, but if indeed giving them soy, like someone's gonna buy soy to give the Iranians, well, Bill Gates gonna make a lot of money out of it. Just keep that in mind. That's all I have to say.
All right, let me verify. Last on this topic, we have Halda. Halda, would you like to speak?
I just said that you could remove my two if you wanted to try to speed up the conversation.
No, hold on. We want this. We want your voice added to this. So go ahead, because you didn't speak. We only wanted the people who already had it to be removed, not the people who are speaking. We just want a variety of opinions. So please add your opinion.
The only comment that I have about this is, the more I study what's going on and the more I listen, I can't help but wonder if there isn't like some sort of, I don't know, puppet master behind the scenes, because literally nothing is making any sense. I mean, I just can't help but think that there are some hidden, that there's a hidden agenda that none of us can see. And I'm really, really concerned that this is going to hurt Iranians and the idea of a free Iran. But that's all I was going to say.
I mean, if we had a puppet master behind things, things would make more sense to us. Puppet masters usually with me, but usually the answer is not a puppet master. Usually, because there's no person, there's no puppet master, things are more chaotic and harder to understand. That's the result of not having a puppet master, because things get a lot more complicated and multifactorial without a puppet master, right? Also, I do think, like, I mean, I don't know if it's that complicated, because I think it's if we use Occam's razor, again, I'm not saying this is the answer, but Occam's razor suggests that this is the midterms. This is bringing oil prices down before the midterms. It's basically as simple as that. I think that explains it, but maybe it's more complicated. Maybe it's not, but I think it's pretty straightforward. That's what's happening. And yeah, Sketch, feel free to ask me every time if there's super chats, because the editor, even if there is no super chats, our editor looks for the word super chat to be able to know where to cut between the segments, right? So, like, feel free to
Right.
ask. Yeah. So
Do we have any super chats?
we have Veteran Hoffman, you celebrating 1 month of memberships with the Lion and Sun flag. Thank you so much. And that's about it. No super chats, but just that. And thank you for being a member for 1 month. My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.